Two Chairs No Waiting, episode number 334. News of cast and crew, Weaver's newsletter, June 2015. Speaking of Weavers, this episode and every episode of Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you by Weaver's Department Store. So drop by over at weaversdepartmentstore.com and check out some of the great Mayberry items they have there. I know you're going to enjoy them. Great t-shirts, all kinds of books. So head over to weaversdepartmentstore.com and get something that you'd enjoy from Mayberry. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners like you. Thank you very much for your support. Hello, everybody. I'm Alan Newsom, your host for Two Chairs No Waiting, and it is great to spend this time here in Mayberry with you. I hope you guys have been enjoying some of the episodes we've been doing the last few weeks where we've been talking about, who is Andy, who is Barney, who is Opie. So we're going to continue that. But this week, we skipped last time the eBullet came out. So I definitely want to encourage you guys, if you've never gotten a copy of the eBullet, to head over to imayberry.com. And when you get there, you're going to see a link there. Just slide down the page just a little bit, and you're going to see a big link that says eBullet. I want you to subscribe to the eBullet because the eBullet is an amazing newsletter where you'll be able to get all kinds of great Mayberry information about the Andy Griffith Show. And so I want to encourage you to do that. Now, what we usually do here on the podcast is talk about the news of cast and crew that's found in the eBullet. Now, Jim Clark, he writes the eBullet, the official newsletter of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club. But Jim also writes every other month the Weavers newsletter. And so the news of cast and crew gets updated basically every month, just slightly, so that the information is different between Weavers and the eBullet. So we're going to go through the news of cast and crew that's found in the Weaver's Department Store newsletter. Now, you may want to subscribe to that too. Both of those newsletters are free, both the Weaver's newsletter and the eBullet. Completely free. All you do is subscribe. They'll be emailed directly to you, and you'll get them in your mailbox. And you can go online and look at them as well if you'd rather. But they're great newsletters. Jim Clark does a lot of work for these things. And it's definitely something you don't want to miss if you're a Mayberry fan. And obviously you are, or you wouldn't be here with me. So let's look at some of the stuff that's in the Weaver's Department Store newsletter as we get on into this. So first thing you'll always find in the newsletters for Jim is stuff about the Floyd's Barbershop Bulletin Board, which is the event calendar for the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club. Just a few things that are coming up in the next several weeks here. We have a whole bunch of folks. The 4th of July, David, Mayberry Deputy Browning, Kenneth Otis Junkin, Phil, Ernest T. Fox, Jeff Howard Branch, Jeff Sprague, Howard Branch, I should say, Jeff Howard Sprague Branch. I get them so mixed up. There's all the one person to me. Michael Gomer Oliver, and Georgia, Aunt B. Branham. They're going to be harvesting laughs over at the Southeast Old Threshers Reunion in Denton, North Carolina. So I definitely want to encourage you to do that. It's a huge event. It's a 4th of July weekend, and if you enjoy that kind of event, I know you'd enjoy this one because there's going to be Mayberry folks around. They're going to be performing some shows with the Burrow Brothers Bluegrass Band at 2 and 7, and plus they'll be mingling around all day long. So I definitely want to encourage you to head over there and check it out. Now, in July, that's July the 4th. The July the 11th, Neil Brower is going to be up in Mount Airy, North Carolina at the Andy Griffith Museum there. And he's going to be doing his presentation of Mayberry 101, his Professor Brower's class on Briscoe Declares for Aunt B. It's going to be at 2 p.m. on July 11th. So definitely you want to do that if you have opportunity and you're in that area. Now, if you're not there and you're over towards Bristol, you can head over to see David Browning. He's going to be at the Sing to Faith, an auction fundraiser at Paramount Theater in Bristol. So David will be there that weekend too. Now, the next weekend, we got big stuff going on, and it's related to this podcast, so I wanted to definitely mention it. July the 17th through the 19th, we're going to be having the Mayberry Meetup up in Mount Airy, North Carolina. There's a lot of you folks who listen to this podcast and are members of the Who's Been Messing Up the Bulletin Board chapter that are going to be there, and we're going to have a great time. It's going to be from the 17th to the 19th, as I said. Betty Lynn will be there that Friday, the 17th. She's going to be at the Andy Griffith Museum from about 12:30 to 3:30 signing autographs. Now, the autographs will cost you $10 for the photograph, and you'll get it autographed by Betty. But if you head over to the Andy Griffith Museum.org, you can get more information, or just show up there on the day of the event, and I believe you'll be able to make it in. The lines are always long, so be ready to stand in line. The nice thing you're doing, though, is you're standing in line, you can look through the museum because the line winds through the Andy Griffith Museum. So that's just one of the things we'll be doing while we're there in Mount Airy over the weekend. And a great happenstance happened that on the 19th, during the 19th, the weekend there in Mount Airy, they're going to have a special event at the Earl Theater, which will include, they're going to host director Gary Nelson and producer Dick Atkins, who will discuss Murder in Catawba County. Now, you may or may not know that movie, but it starred Andy Griffith, Johnny Cash, and Cindy Knight, who later became Cindy Griffith, Andy's wife. It was a 1983 movie. It was highly acclaimed at the time. And the director and producer commentary session for that movie, they're going to do that at 3 o'clock that day. It'll be followed by a rare screening of the movie at 4 p.m. They're going to have several other screenings throughout the weekend there from the 17th through the 21st. But the 19th is the only day they're going to have the producer and the director. They're going to be there. So definitely. Now, Gary Nelson, who was the director, he also directed Malcolm at the Crossroads episode of the Andy Griffith Show and 2 Gomer Pyle USMC episodes. So anyway, that's another possibility of things we might be doing there for the Mayberry Meetup weekend, July 17th through the 19th. So make some reservations and show up there and let me know you're coming. You can email me at floyd@imayberry.com so I'll get a head count so I have some idea. Everybody that comes, bring a chair to set in because I don't know how many chairs we're actually going to have in the gazebo to watch episodes of the Andy Griffith Show that night. So bring them and be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Folks, there's all kinds of information like that in the Weaver's newsletter and in the eBullet. That's the reason I'm encouraging you to sign up for them. And, of course, the other big news, there's several other events happening, the bigger Mayberry type events. I just mentioned that. Then Rodney Dillard and Maggie Peterson are going to be in Troy, North Carolina on August 22nd for a fundraiser for the DARE program of Montgomery County. And there'll be David Browning, there'll be Barney, Mayberry Deputy David Browning. Myself, I'll be there as Floyd. Kenneth Otis Junkin, he's going to be there. Ernest T. Phil Fox, he's going to be there. And Howard Sprague, Jeff Branch. All of us will be there putting on a fundraiser for the Dare County, Montgomery County DARE program. And, of course, then we have September 20th through the 23rd. You got Life Lessons in Mayberry. And then followed right after that, from the 23rd, the 24th is the very start of Mayberry Days. So I definitely want to encourage you to be there because you've already heard probably. But the special guests this year are going to be Barbara Eden and Clint Howard. That's not only them. They're going to have a lot of other folks there. Elizabeth McCrae, Ronnie Shell, Margaret Carey, George Spence, and George Lindsay Jr. all going to be present. So it's going to be a great year. This is just going to be the first time we've had Barbara Eden or Leon himself, Clint Howard, at Mayberry Days. So, folks, that's just some of the stuff that you'll find out in the event calendar there in the Weaver's newsletter. Definitely want to encourage you to head over there and check it out. And we should remind you that October the 3rd is going to be the 55th anniversary of the first airing of the first episode of the Andy Griffith Show. 55 years this year. So it's a big year, big year. All right, so there's a little bit of, always in the newsletter, there's some merchandise update. There's a cool new shirt. It's not really new. It's old, but it's new again. It's called Property of Mayberry Union High Athletic Department. A cool t-shirt. I really like that t-shirt. And you could head over there and check it out and maybe get you a thermometer, a Fife security thermometer, because, it's getting hot outside. You need to know how hot it is. All right, so that's all the commercials. We'll go on to something else here and head into the news of cast and crew. I know you're going to enjoy this. So let me get you some background music where it's not just me talking. Let's go with this one. Isn't that pretty? I want to thank the VW Boys. You can head over to VWBoys.com for this background music. So thank you, guys. There's some great guys. They'll be at Mayberry Days as well, so make sure you see them. All right, news of cast and crew. Let's head over. Ron Howard started filming Inferno in Italy in April and has been busy shooting at fascinating locations in Europe in the weeks since. The release date of the film is October 2016. And don't forget, his In Heart of the Sea is coming to theaters in December. It's a whale of a story. Meanwhile, Bryce Dallas Howard, Ron's oldest daughter, is starring in the biggest movie on the planet, Jurassic World, the giant hit that is breaking box office records all over the globe since opening just 2 weeks ago. Ron and his Imagine Film Entertainment team are also pleased to have secured backing from Sony Pictures and MRC for their ambitious plans to bring The Dark Tower, based on a popular series of novels by Stephen King, to TV and to theaters. As faithful readers of this newsletter will recall, putting all the pieces together for this complex film project involving equally complex story has been a multi-year saga, but it looks like the financial pieces are now in place. The Imagine duo of Howard and Grazer is also part of the team producing an as yet untitled Beatles documentary, which is progressing well and is expected to give the Beatles fans an unprecedented look at the Fab Four. Info about its release and distribution is expected soon. So let's move on to Jim Nabors. Gomer Pyle himself, he celebrated his 85th birthday in fine fashion on June the 12th. Jim hosted a party for 300 friends, including Carol Burnett, at his home in Honolulu. 10 days earlier, he received an honorary certificate from the Honolulu City Council, and it recognized his years of entertaining countless audiences in the islands and beyond. And there's a link in the newsletter to the video if you'd like to go and check it out. It's nice to see Mr. Nabors, 85 years old. So happy birthday, Mr. Nabors. Betty Lynn had fans arriving by the carloads, even busloads, for her monthly meet and greet session at the Andy Griffith Museum in Mount Airy last Friday. She's there the third Friday of most months, including July and August. And July is our Mayberry meetup. So that'll be a good time to go see him. Let's see. Maggie Peterson and Morgan Brittany were among the stars at the annual Missouri Blossom Festival in Marshfield in April. Maggie has been a special guest for several festivals, and this year was an encore appearance for Morgan as well. Next up for Maggie was the Mayberry in the Midwest, including the Mayberry Squad Car Nationals in Danville, Indiana. And TV brother Rodney, they were there in mid-May. They were joined by Karen Knotts, whose mother Kay also accompanied her for the trip. And a full slate of Mayberry tribute artists and large crowds of enthusiastic friends. Ronnie Shell was under the weather and had to miss his appearance at Altoona Day in Alabama in May, but he's looking forward to Mayberry Days and the Mayberry Cruise this fall. Jackie Joseph has been back to her globe-trotting ways. That's Romina, my darling Romina. Jackie Joseph. This spring she's been she's been on a happy trip to France with her husband, David. Margaret Carey, who played Bess Huggins and Helen Scobie, entertained, including tap dancing, at Disneyland for festivities connected to Tinkerbell Half Marathon in May. She also celebrated her 86th birthday that weekend. Writer Sam Bobrick, he did 19 episodes of the Andy Griffith Show, reports that he spends most of his time these days writing plays. His plays, which run the full gamut of lengths, are popular choice by dinner and community theaters all across the country. Publisher Sam French carries many of his plays for those who want to check them out. You can head to samuelfrench.com and check out those things. George Spence, who played Frank the boyfriend in The House Guest and is at Mayberry Days most years, is celebrating his 87th birthday. He celebrated it on April the 18th. He was under the weather this winter, but is feeling better now, and after having to miss last year's festival at Mayberry Days, he hopes he and his wife, Stephanie, can return in September. George Lindsay Jr., likewise, is looking forward to Mayberry Days, and he's working up a new song to debut for the occasion. Amid songwriting and comedy work, including performing some on both for a show at the Commons in Woodland Hills, California, on Father's Day. He's also volunteering as a carpenter at California's Wildlife Center in Malibu. And he has been dubbing voices in American English for 7 characters in the Japanese anime called Eden for William Winkler Productions. If I say it right, it'll be better. And we got a short link in the podcast. You can head over there to the link, not in the podcast, but on the actual newsletter. There's a link if you want to go and check out some of George's work. So that's all we have for news of cast and crew. But I think that's pretty amazing, pretty good. Jim Clark works so hard every month, coming up with these great little tidbits of Mayberry information. And folks, you definitely don't want to miss that kind of stuff. It is so fun to read through these. Every time I get one in my inbox, it just makes me smile because there's some new Mayberry stuff for me. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I hope you enjoy hearing a little bit about it here. And I want to remind you, subscribe to the newsletters because you don't get everything here on the podcast. I just give you a little tidbit of all the hard work Jim does. All the rest of it's right there, and plus you can read it again and again. If you'd rather have a paper copy of it, well, you can print it out and read it at your house. That's how we do it now. We electronically send it to you, and then you can read it on your own. You can print it and get it that way. So, again, I want to thank the VW Boys for our background music. Isn't that nice? And I want to thank you guys for being here and always helping support this podcast. We've done a new thing, so I want to tell you about that before we get out of here. When we do the podcast now, we're doing it live on Monday nights, and we're sending this out through YouTube Live. So now we can have not only PC users, but iPad users and Android users and iPhone users. They can all watch the podcast and be a part of the chat room and join in with all the Mayberry fun. So I want to encourage you to do that. And as part of, just some of that stuff, I wanted to mention that you can help support this podcast. If you head over to twochairsnowaiting.com, you can donate to the show. Obviously, that's one way to do it. But you can also become a patron. Now, a patron, what's that mean? A patron, you can choose to set it up so that you donate, $1 an episode or 50 cents an episode or whatever you'd like to. And that way you don't have to remember to try to donate anything. It just shows up and I get it. Right now I have 2 patrons and I want to thank them. But the reason I mention that is because since we're doing this live show now, the show usually lasts an hour. You get about 20 minutes, 25 minutes of it here on the podcast. The other portions of it, I'm going to be trying to make that available to people who are patrons. So we have it recorded. So if you can't make it on Monday nights live, you could see what you're missing by heading over and becoming a patron and donate a little bit of money to the podcast. And that helps keep everything going. And, it just makes it, it just gives us a little bit more to be able to make things better here on the podcast, as we try to do all the time for you. So I hope you enjoy that. All right, folks, don't want to try to pimp out myself anymore, but I want to thank you for being here. I want to invite you to give me a call at 888-684-8415 and let me know what you think. Love to hear from you. Hope you enjoyed the information from News and Cast and Crew. If you did, head over and sign up to the Weaver's newsletter and to the eBullet. You wouldn't miss out on anything if you sign up for both. You get one each month. So they alternate. One's 1 month and then the other one's the next month. So I think you get it. So, folks, thanks for coming. Talk to you next time right here on Two Chairs. Have a great Mayberry week. Good night, folks.